Okay, class, this is a special video. I wanted to do a video in the context of your project and integrate some of the concepts we've been talking about, in particular Git and the notion of Git branching, which I know in terms of the lab wasn't necessarily clear, and some folks are still getting used to it. But I want to show you why branches are powerful. Git workflows that were talked about in part 2 of source code control, because those are particularly powerful. So I'm going to suggest a particular workflow for your projects, and code reviews, and then inferring forward into additional quality policies, unit testing and code reviews for that matter. So a way for you to work collaboratively on your team using Git branching as a way to do a workflow. So what is the workflow? So I have my my digitizer notebook up here so I can draw it out for you. By default we have this thing called master, right? In Git. It's created by default for us. Now, the purpose or intent of a branch is at some point we want to go off and do some work, right? Now we could do it directly in master, but we're working directly on the main code line for the release, yet we have no way to exchange or collaborate over whether or not the changes currently being made are ones that we really want. In other words, somebody could just go ahead and kind of commit and commit and commit, right? And what if the team says, well, you didn't write your unit tests or you didn't conduct your code review and you really need to do that? We want to try and enforce that kind of thing. So let me erase that for a second and get back to this here. Okay, try and reconnect that line. Okay, so what I'm going to suggest is a simple workflow based on Git pull. I've posted some helpful links on Blackboard already. But in this workflow, we are going to branch by feature, it's called. And branch by feature for us means user story. Okay, so what we're going to do in this workflow is at the conclusion of our sprint planning, when we have the set of user stories that we are going to do for this sprint, we are going to create a branch, which I'll draw this way. All right, let's say we have 2 branches. In fact, I'll give you an example repo that we'll work from. An example task board. This is the lab Git example one. This is one that I showed you at the beginning of the course where we started working through some sample work on Tega. And if you notice, I have the same user stories out there I had before with some tasks. But I have user story 8 and user story 6. Okay, also have unassigned, and if it's coding wise, that unassigned tasks like 0.1s are ones that you want to put on Git as well as a branch. Go ahead and do that. But for now, I'm going to say we're going to branch by user story. So if I have a sprint and I have 2 user stories, I create 2 branches, and we're going to ask that you name them US dash the number. Okay, so capital US we would prefer. This is so we know what we're looking at and can associate to your Scrum board, and so can you. So I had user story 6 and I had user story 8. Now, whoever's doing tasks, all right, we're not branching by task, we're branching by feature or user story. So all the different tasks should all be putting their code into those branches. So you're going to have to make sure you're working on the right branch, and I'll go work through Git in a minute and show you what you should be doing. But for now, we have 2. So let's say we have 4 developers on your team, which I'll call those 4 developers Tweedledee, Tweedledee1, Tweedledee, and Tweedledum. All right, 1 and 2, and then on user story 6, I have thing 1 and thing 2. Working on this one. So they're going to see tasks and they're going to be closing tasks and so forth. But eventually, when you complete all the tasks, you get to the acceptance test of the user story, and now you're ready to say we got a user story that's passed through everything, and we want to make that code part of the product. We want to put that code on master because we're ready now. We think with that code. But if Tweedledee and Tweedledum do that for user story 8, then the entire team, them plus their thing 1 and thing 2 partners, should be able to evaluate what's been done in accordance with the quality policy. So, for example, on master, you might say that, hey, you need to black box unit test you know, for the acceptance, all the features are related to the aspects related to the user story, and you need to white box unit test anything related to anything of a certain complexity. And we'll actually talk about with metrics later in the semester. But there's some criteria by which you have to decide unit testing needs to be done, or did you even write a unit test? It could be as simple as that. And then code reviews. You could say the same thing. Hey, we should code review each user story. All the code, some of the code, I leave that up to the teams. But these are quality policies, which are enforced by how much of a quality practice that you did. So let's say Tweedledee and Tweedledum did their user tests, the unit test, but they haven't done a code review. So what they're going to do in GitHub is they're going to ask that a poll be done, right? And a pull request is created where we want to pull into master the changes from user story 8. All right. But again, if they didn't do all the quality, in other words, if their code doesn't meet the quality criteria to make it into the product, then that in fact should be rejected. All right. And it can, and this pull request, and I'll show you how to do those in Git in a minute. It can reject it. It doesn't mean user story 8 went away. All right. User story 8 can still continue, and sometime later when they fix that, they can issue a new pull request. And then if that one goes through, then the team says okay and allows it to become part of the project. Okay, so this is a branch by feature, and it's going to be using what's called the GitPullWorkflow. I posted some links, but you could Google up the GitPull workflow. It's fairly common. This is a common practice. Doesn't mean it's necessarily the best practice, but it's very straightforward. You're branching by each user story. When a user story is complete, you're effectively going to the rest of the team and saying, we want to make this part of the product, and the rest of the team has to collectively agree that, yes, it met the user story, passed the acceptance test, and the code itself has met the quality criteria, the quality policy for our project. So that's what the workflow looks like. Let's go through an example of how you would actually do this stuff in the tool. So lab get example team, I have the corresponding repository out on GitHub under the CST316 user. You can see remotely it has just the master branch right now, no additional branches, as well as my local copy of that repo. I've already put some stuff up on the screen. I've done a status. I'm locally on my branch master. I have those files, remember the button frame stuff, that example program, and the git branch-r command asks me how do my branches relate to remote branches going out from the origin. All right, so that gives me a summary of that. Now at this point, I want to create branches for user story 8 and user story 6. I can actually do that either on the local side or on the GitHub side. I'm actually going to start in GitHub because GitHub gives us right here a find or create branch. So I'm going to create US-8. I want it to be all caps, so US-8 like that, and create branch for master. So I'll click on that and say yes. Okay. Notice it basically created that branch. It switches me automatically to that branch. Now I've got to get that branch down onto my local, right? So I'm going to pull. Remember, pull does a fetch plus updates my working repository. So I'm going to do a git pull. All right, and look, it tells me new branch. All right, already up to date. I can do a git status. Now locally, I'm still on master, so for me to switch to US-8, I've got to check it out. Okay, I can do a git branch-r again, and I notice US-8 shows up there. Right here it is, right here. So I've got an idea of what's going on. Now, I said there's a second way you could create a branch, right? So I can also, let me go back to master. So I'll check out master. All right, and I can create a branch locally first. So I can do my git checkout -b US-6 for user story 6. Right? So I've created a new branch. I can list my branches, right? I've got US6, USH, and master, but I haven't changed anything remotely. There's no US6 out there. I go back and refresh my page on GitHub, right? There's no US6 out here. There's still just master and US8. Again, that's, keep in mind, I'm the GitHub is a peer-to-peer repository with my local. They're two separate places with just a remote connection between them, but those associations have to be explicitly made. We made a US8 branch first on GitHub, so we had to pull it into our local. Here we've got to take our US6, which I'm currently on now, and push it, all right, up to the remote repo. So first, while I'm going to do that, I'm also going to go ahead and make a change. Let me just go into the README file, all right, and I'm going to go and say added from branch US-6 to here. All right, I commit, I do my git add, I do my, oops, I gotta actually tell it to put README on there. I'm going to do my git commit -m. Changed on this branch, okay, and I do a git status, right? Now it says on branch 6 nothing to commit, working directory clean. Well, that's again a local message. It doesn't tell me anything with respect to a remote repository because again I'm not associated with a remote repository. I don't have a remote repository right now named US6. I can go create one named that, but even then it will be a separate branch object. I mean, think of where we are right now. In fact, let me switch to here and create a new page. Let me go to a new page. So remember, what I've done here is I've got my repo up here known as GitHub. And on GitHub, I have master and user story 8, and my repo down on my my desktop here. And this is just my Git repo with branches for master, US6, and US8 because I did the pull. So this is associated with that. This is associated with that. But this thing has no association right now up on GitHub. So again, I did the US8 this way by doing a pull. That was the git pull I did moments ago. By the way, your master was originally associated and created by doing the original clone that you did, let's say on your project. But I haven't done a push pull or anything to associate this git local one to something on GitHub. But since I started it here and I've already made a change, I've already got a git commit object in here, I'm going to push it up here so US6 appears. All right, so I'm going to do a git push. Now I want it to go remotely. Remotely is referred to as origin, but I don't want to push it to master. Remember, master is the name of a branch. If I push that change to master, I'm putting it in the wrong place. I'm basically, I'd be saying, I want to take something that is from US6 and put it remotely on here. That's not what I want to do at all. All right, I want to actually create US6 here and put the change on that corresponding branch. So I'm going to name it US6. All right. Oh, it's going to ask me my stuff. I didn't set up this machine to exchange keys or anything like that. Okay, and it tells me new branch, right? It created that new branch. And in fact, let's go back and see, let's refresh our page over here. And now I've got, oh, it even told me recently pushed branches less than a minute ago. And I've got an extra branch, okay? So I can create the branch out on GitHub. Frankly, on your team, it's probably easier since you're already doing sprint planning. I would probably, at the conclusion of your sprint planning, when you're ready to go, I would go out here and have the team together go and create all the branches. Just set them up ahead of time at the start of your sprint. You got 10 user stories, go do 10 user stories. You got 2 user stories, go create the branches right away. All right, and just then everybody on their local would go and do that pull. And to verify that everybody would have that, what they need, you can always use the git branch command to say these are my local branches, and you can do your git, let me spell it right, that -r to check your remote, okay, and what's associated. So we're good to go. We have 2 user stories. We've actually already pushed a change up to US 6. So let's go back here and again revisit where we were in the workflow. So we're actually working on US 6. I've already pushed a change up here, right? So let's say that change was that one line in the README. So now I want to take that change and submit it, or basically ask the team if that change is okay. So I want to issue I forget these dash lines. I want to issue what's called a pull request. Will you please pull my change into your branch? In this case, the branch is master. So we can do that directly from GitHub. In fact, GitHub informs us that we can do that. We can do a compare and pull request. So I clicked on that button, right? Now notice a couple things. It tells me the compare. This is, where the change was, what I'm starting from, and what I want to pull into. And notice how I can pull in from any branch to any branch. Okay, so it's not, master is not special in that regard. How the role of master as the integrator of all your final stuff is something that's user designated. You do it. Git doesn't care what branch you'd want to go take and merge something over into. Okay, and I mention that because again, you really have to know where you're doing your changes. You want to use the git status command. You want to make sure you understand when you're changing code for the project that you are changing it under the proper branch, because otherwise it's going to wind up in the wrong place. And when you merge, you want to make sure you're putting it in the proper place. You want to merge it into master. Okay, now by default that's showing up first. That's pretty good. We're okay. So please merge the README change from this branch US 6 onto master. And you can see I can't spell very well on the fly. And so all I'm doing is creating a pull request. I'm creating a request. All right, this is what the request looks like. And what's nice is GitHub will automatically recognize whether or not it can do a merge for you. Okay, so again, we're asking for something from 6 to go down into master, and Git's saying, hey, I can take care of it for you. You don't even have to manually merge any files. I can figure it out. All right, because it's already kind of pre-inspected the nature of the change. Now, of course, the nature of the change we made was, a one-line change on one file, and it's just a text file. So Git quickly recognized that that's going to be something that's not going to cause any conflicts, any problems. That doesn't always happen. All right, you can have conflicts, you can have problems, you have to handle the workflow a little bit different. Now, at this point, making the pull request, the rest of the team should see it. Pull requests should be reviewed by the team for the team's quality policy. Now, what they're going to want to know is, hey, have you written the unit tests that we want to write? Have you done the code reviews that the team wants to do and that Dr. Gary's asking for? Going forward, have you run the metrics tools? Have you run the static analysis? Have you made those corrections? Is that code of the level of quality that it needs to be for us to accept it into the product? If it is, you can say, so. Okay, looks good to go. And you can go ahead and do the merge. All right, confirm it. So, pull request successfully merged and closed. So we did that merge. We automatically closed it, and I can add a comment to it. Okay. Now when I do that, let's take a look at how things look. All right, notice how it even changed the color of the request. Okay, so I still have my branches. Okay, if I look at my set of commits that I've done in the project, all right, it did a merge pull request. You can even track the pull requests that you currently have on here, the open ones, but also the closed ones, the ones that you did, so you can always revisit the history of what's been merged. Okay. Yeah, GitHub's even trying to tell us, avoid bugs by continually running your tests, right? It's giving you a little advertisement for more tooling that it can do. So what did I just do? What did I just accomplish? What I just accomplished was successfully bringing in one change from this user story. Now, what's next? Well, what's next is we probably want to sync back on our local, right? Maybe this happened, maybe this is one of my teammates and I need to sync my local. So I'm going to do a git pull, right? No tracking information current branch, it's because I am on US 6, so I'm going to go back to master. All right. Notice how it tells me when I check back out, back to master, that I'm behind by a couple of commits. Those commits had to do with the local commit plus the merge itself of the pull request. So I go ahead and do the merge, and let's take a look at README. Hey, README's got the change from branch US 6. Okay. Now, all I've done is create a request for something to be done, and I've closed it. What I have not done in any way, shape, or form here, and I don't think I even have, oh, I got green up here. What I have not done is gotten rid of this branch at all in either GitHub or locally. So if I go to this page, I haven't gotten rid of this one or this one. Now, when you actually want to remove your branches, and when you want to delete them, is up to you. But when a user story is completed, and done means done. I mean, it's not supposed to be matched. You're 100% done. Now, you may choose to wait to do this until the end of a sprint as part of a cleanup activity. That's probably the best thing, just to be sure. But you can go ahead and delete branches on both sides. Okay. So again, I can go on the local side first and delete a branch. To do that, I use the git branch -d. -d flag will delete the branch and name the branch. Oops, I put a dash there. All right. And boom, I deleted it just like that. Git branch. Now, that's probably safer to do it locally because you don't want to do any more work on it locally accidentally, right? I mean, it's actually reasonably safe because you still have a copy of the branch, by the way, out on GitHub, right? I just did that locally. I'll go here, refresh the page, just so you see. I go here, well, US 6 is still out there. I didn't change anything on US 6, right? Okay, so looking at how to get rid of a branch, there's basically two ways to do it. And again, getting rid of a remote branch. So in the situation I have here locally, I have branches for user story 8 still and for master. But remotely, it's still showing me through the -r flag that I have user story 6, user story 8, and master. In addition to, I always have the head pointer. I go out to GitHub, and sure enough, I still got user story 6. So I can do one of two things. I can actually delete it on GitHub, and I can go to the branches page, and you see the little trash cans here, and I could delete user story 6 or user story 8 this way. I could even change one of them to be the default if I want to. I can also tell from my local, I can also push to the origin, in other words, try and tell the remote server to delete that branch as well. So I'm going to do it from the local side. All right, username and okay, and it says that it deleted it. So let's ask locally, remotely. Doesn't say I have anything. Those are my local ones. I'm back to the same set. Let's refresh, and boom, US 8's gone all of a sudden, right? I go back to my original repo page and I look, I have two branches, and that shows up there, that shows up here. Okay, so I locally deleted it, and then I locally told the remote to delete it. So just like we pushed in order to create a branch, we can also remove it locally. Likewise, just like we pulled by creating a branch first out on GitHub and then pulling it into our local repo, we can also do that as well through the branches page, and we can delete it out there, in which case we'd still have to do a pull to sync back up with the state of our remote repo. Okay, so where are we again? Let's checkpoint real quick. I've just gotten rid of This guy, user story 6, that one's gone. The branch is entirely gone. Again, it may not be something you want to entirely delete until the end of the sprint as part of cleanup. But effectively, when you're done, you're done. So that branch can go away. We still have a branch out here for user story 8 that we can do the same thing on. We can make some changes. So let's check out user story 8, and it'll become clear why I'm doing that in a minute. Let's change the README file again. Let's from user story 8 branch, simple one-line text field thing. I'm going to push. Whoops, I can't push. I didn't even add it. All they did was change my working directory. I've got to go ahead and add the README to my. I got to stage it. Then I've got to commit it. I'm committed locally now. Now I can go ahead and push it, right? And again, I don't want to just like get used to typing in master all of a sudden and have that too rote. I want to push it from my local user story 8 up to my remote user story 8 branch. All right. It's going to ask me to validate again. And there we go. Okay, so we're uploaded. Where are we now? Again, get status. I'm on user story 8. Nothing to commit. Nothing. My working directory is clean. I look good. I go over to GitHub. I go look at user story 8 branch, and I've got a change out there. I've got a push branch and a change. So again, it's GitHub's trying to be friendly and nice and trying to inform me I could generate a pull request. It even tells me I'm 1 commit ahead and 2 commits behind master, because master got something from user story 6, remember, so we still have that issue to deal with. But right now, if you look at, I've got my GitHub always renders your readme.md for markdown in this space, so it goes ahead and tells me I've got my commit from user story 8 branch. Now let's go ahead and compare and do the pull request. We did this before with user story 6. Now notice one thing that's different. It says can't automatically merge. Now why is that? Well, it already has a commit on master from user story 6, but now it's on master. We're asking to put something from user story 8 on master, but those changes, if you notice carefully, were in the same place. They were right after that awesome. And by being right after awesome, they're done in the same location. So when GitHub does an auto merge, it wouldn't know which line to put first, the one that originally came from branch user story 8, or the one that came from user story 6. Okay, so maybe I'm worried because maybe somebody hasn't updated their master and so forth, and so you want to reject you want to go ahead and create the pull request first. So this is I got ahead of myself. I'm generating a pull request from user story 8. Again, I'm doing it from user story 8 to master. So what it's trying to say is now I'm at a point where I can't auto merge, right? So it's not enabled. So maybe I don't want to go ahead and close the pull request just yet, or approve it. I would have to pull this in locally to do it. Also, maybe I just didn't meet the quality policy. That would be the real reason is, you didn't write your unit test, you didn't pass your code review, you didn't pass your static analysis or whatnot. So you can make a comment like reject change, did not pass sufficient depth of code review or something like that. And you go ahead and close and comment. Now, notice this thing gives me, all kinds of, I got a red, I got closed with unmerged commits. So at this point, I generated a pull request. I go to my pull request tabs. It's closed, but this one that's purple is one that was taken, was accepted. This one was rejected. All right, so no, the pull request did not happen. The merge did not happen. And so user story 8 is still out there. So that scenario that we just did is, again, going back to my messy diagram, that's this first one that I was talking about. Okay, that's this one. We just tried to do something, and we said, no, we're not going to take that pull. That's not acceptable yet. You've got to up the quality policy. And so, I've got to go ahead and do some more changes and try and figure out how to fix that. All right. So I didn't kill the branch. All right. The branch is still there on both sides, but I didn't accept that pull request. So that's a form of how you enforce a quality policy. Now I may decide, okay, let me go back into README, and it didn't like it here, but maybe it would like it above it. Okay. I don't know actually. We have to see what GitHub says. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do my git. I'm going to do a quick commit -a. I'm going to say second try from user story 8 branch. I'm going to commit that. Now I'm committed locally. I'm going to git push origin. Again, I'm pushing to the remote branch user story 8. Log in again. Okay, so I've pushed the change up again. So let's go back to GitHub. Let's go back to our repo. Let's check out our branch. 2 commits ahead, 2 commits behind master. We're going to create a new pull request. We're going to, again, try and merge. It does say this time able to merge, so that's interesting. We don't have the conflict to merge. So let's see if this second one goes through. Again, it probably went through because I moved where the change was. Create my pull request. All right, and so now I'm on the pull request. No conflicts to the base branch. So hey, now I can go ahead and GitHub thinks it can go ahead and merge this pull request without problem. So I'll go ahead and do that. Merge try to, adding a little comment confirming the merge. Pull request successfully merged and it automatically closed it. All right. Now let's see where we are. I'm gonna go back to master. All right. I'm going to get pull, right, because remotely I've got to go in and bring in the changes on that remote branch. If I look at the README file now I've got the change from the user story 8 branch, which was in a different spot now than the user story 6 branch change. So it went ahead and automatically merged that successfully for me. I closed the pull request, and at this point, again, I can go ahead and delete user story 8. In fact, GitHub's even giving us the choice. You can safely delete it. So we'll just delete it from right here, and we're done. Now, if I go back up locally, I still got user story 8. But if I check remotely, it's still there. I didn't think it would be. Let's see. Why is it still there? It's not still there. Okay. Oh, I deleted it remotely, but I didn't go ahead and pull. I've got to resync. So I got to pull. It says already up to date. And my reference to user story 8 is still there. So what's going on? I thought, you just watched me. I just deleted it, and GitHub doesn't know anything about that branch. I did a pull to sync up, the state of GitHub with my local one. The problem is your local Git won't automatically get rid of references to local ones, to remote ones, right? So I do a git checkout of user story 8, and it's still there. The problem is I've deleted it remotely, but I haven't done anything to delete it locally. I still have to run my git delete on the branch command. -d for delete user story 8. So again, well, in terms of creating branches, we showed that on either side we were able to do that. And we can delete branches on either side, but Git won't in your local space because you're peer-to-peer. In fact, I even kind of lazily have been calling it a sync operation. Again, since it's peer-to-peer, it's not really a sync operation per se. You still have to maintain the state of your local repository, meaning some remote repository like GitHub isn't going to tell you what to do on your local repository. You still have to use the Git local commands to manipulate your local repository, or else these references that now will be dangling. There's no user story 8 on GitHub. It's a dangling reference on your local. It'll keep that branch around locally. Maybe you even want to do a local backup that way, just in case you're worried. But if you want to keep your local repo clean and mirroring, if you will, I should say, instead of syncing what's on the remote, you're still going to have to go in and do your own maintenance locally. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm basically saying delete the branch. All right. I do a git branch again. I don't have it anymore. I'm down to just having master, which is appropriate. That's all I've got remotely. Now I can also check my remote references just to make sure. And wait a minute, why do I still have user story 8 there? Well, technically, each one of these things is an object, meaning I have a branch locally, but I also have a remote reference. Now I don't have user story 8 now on either side, but I still have this reference hanging out there. In other words, it's like working in that pointer. Remember the pointer logic I was trying to explain that Git uses as an object repository. I've deleted the objects on both sides, the nodes in the linked list, but I haven't deleted the pointer itself. So I need to get rid of the pointer. All right, so we're at a spot where locally we only have a branch master, remotely we only have a branch master, but we have this remote pointer, this user story 8 pointer, which was connecting the two. And even though I've deleted them on both sides, I haven't deleted the pointer yet. One of the ways you can delete, there's a few different ways you can do it, but a popular command for getting rid of it is to do a prune command. So I'm going to do a git remote. I'm going to prune. So what am I saying here? I'm saying check remote, prune my local space according to what origin has. All right. Basically, it says if I've got any references or pointers going to the remote site that are into nowhere, the remote site doesn't have them, I need to get rid of those. All right. So it just said pruning origin user story 8. I look, user story 8's gone. I have my master and my default head as before, and I'm all set to go. Now, let me wrap up. I do understand with my scribble and so forth that it may not be apparent. I'm certainly hoping that individuals on the team that understand the workflow better than others and understand Git better than others will work with their teammates to help them out and walk them through this. You may have to watch this video a few times. You're going to have to read some of those links. You should create your own test repository on GitHub to test this out, just like I did. Any sample code base will do. If you do that and you're having trouble, email myself and the TAs at the CST316ASU@gmail.com. We'll go take a look. Add that user as a collaborator. We'll go take a look at how you're trying to do the pull and merge. In case it doesn't make sense, but despite the scribble, it's really not too bad. It's kind of the one of the more straightforward ones that you can do. And again, to summarize, what exactly are we doing? We are taking master as it exists at the end of sprint 1, and we're saying let's branch on each of the user stories that we create as part of our sprint 2 planning. So I'm going to do a ... user story n, and the teams go to work in those branches. So again, you got to be sure what branch you're working on. Don't just jump into your Eclipse or whatever else you're using and just start working on without switching, checking out the right branch, because you're going to be doing work in the wrong place. Okay, so make sure you know what you're doing and where you're doing it. But when you're done, again, you're going to say, I want to have my stuff flow down onto master here. So I'm going to create that pull request. And again, the pull request does not have to be accepted. That pull request should be reviewed by the whole team. For 1, acceptance test of the user story. 2, quality policy. Unit tests written, code review needed done, and that list will grow as we go throughout the semester. And again, at this point, when you get all these guys merged onto here and you've accepted them all, you want that by the end of the sprint, reset, do it all over again. And again, these things can be, when the polls have been accepted and the changes are on master, now you can start knocking things out and getting rid of them. You don't need those branches hanging around, so you don't clutter and accidentally work on the wrong space. Okay. We'd really like you to adhere to the pattern of, again, naming these branches US dash the number, where that number is your Taiga user story, not the task. We're not branching on task. It's the user story number. And the reason why is we're going to start looking for that. We're going to start looking for that in our tools where we query the API. We can ask Git for specific branch information, not just master, if we know the name of the branch. So we need you to branch on that name because that's what we'll be looking for, and we can sync that up programmatically with your Taiga. So that'll also help us be more efficient in giving you feedback on a timely basis. Okay, so I hope this video is helpful in doing it. Again, create your own GitHub sandbox to play around in. Add us to it, play around with your teammates, get it squared away, get it down, and as you're completing your Sprint 2 planning this week, set it up like that. We'll probably try and go out and take a quick look to see that you've done so. This is really something by the end of this week, February 4th, 5th, you should really have out there at this time. Okay? Okay, good luck.